Hi, gang. Seeing I brought the channel back, I thought I should bring back one of its most popular features. This is a little bit of a digression from all our work in starting a business and doing AI, but people seem to like it, or at least in my dreams, I believe they do. So without further ado, the books of the year. Got to say, this is the most unusual set of books that I've ever delivered. There is a really interesting mix of business, like you would expect, AI, sprinkling of physics, inner work, and then this great convergence. And then at the end, a book which absolutely had the most impact on me this year, but I suspect it's only useful to very few of you. It was deeply impactful for me personally. And frankly, it's a little bit embarrassing. That's the point. If it helps somebody, that'd be great. Without further ado, let's get cracking. First book that's had a deep impact on me in 2023 was Snow Leopard. This is in our business category. The Category Pirates, who I've been huge fans of ever since they started writing, created, I think, probably what is a real culmination of their work in Snow Leopard. And really what it's all about is, what do you need to do to create a body of work that lasts an enormous amount of time and is deeply impactful? And the differences between that and creating something that's popular and may not last as long, that's more sort of trends or influence based. And this is a constant juggling. And indeed, I think it's one of the things that stops people from actually going ahead and putting something out in the world. And what I loved about this book is that it doesn't judge in terms of, do you want to go the popular but less long lasting route, or potentially the less unpopular, the less lucrative in the short term, definitely, approach to create something that is a lot more long lasting, that indeed leaves a legacy. The great thing here is it's something, I believe, that you can go from one to the other. My other favorite concept here is paying for the party, right? If you're going to do deep work, have you got something that's bringing in enough to give you the time to create that body of work? And so it really is a very practical book, as well as being a very challenging book, one I heartily recommend. Next up, Running Lean, the third edition. Hang on, Ed. You've been recommending Running Lean in these books of the years for literally years, about 10 years to be exact. But this is just no sort of special published version to take advantage of the 10-year marketing opportunity. No, what Ash has done here is completely rewritten the whole thing. The third edition is a complete rewrite. If it was good before, it's great now. And for those of you who studied and use Running Lean as much as like I have, just seeing the growth and the changes in thinking over that 10 years is an education in and of itself. I think in particular why this is a great book to buy again or buy for the first time and read, make sure you get the third edition, is this channel is all about identifying the extraordinary opportunities in creating new businesses with AI. And everything about Running Lean is about testing markets in the right way. We use Running Lean extensively through the process of this channel. It's been incredibly influential. So I can only recommend Running Lean, the third edition, to you. Next up, what is ChatGPT doing? This particular book is like my worlds colliding. It's like when Phil Collins stood in as the drummer for Marillion. I know, deep cut. This is a deep cut too, because my love of physics, we'll come back to that, one of my most influential professors, if you will, thinkers in physics, is Stephen Wolfram. And extraordinary guy, but I left all of my Stephen Wolfram physics books off the list because I knew that, unlike the last book, would appeal to even fewer. But it's all merging. And what's really interesting about Stephen Wolfram is his ability to be able to explain incredibly complex subjects in a relatively easy way to understand. And so here we are, my favorite thinker in physics, looking at ChatGPT and just trying to understand for himself, what is ChatGPT doing? The result of which was an article that was so long that he turned it into a book. And for all of you who are interested, this is a great holiday read because he really takes us through. And what's the amazing thing about this is what we do understand about how large language models work and what we don't understand about how large language models work. And what you will see is all of these worlds start to collide. It's truly fascinating. So if you want to understand large language models, there is math in it, but you can ignore the math and just focus on the explanation. And I love it. All right, let's start the transition. Or is it? Living Untethered for me was my gateway drug into the inner work that I needed to do. It coincided with my ADHD journey. And for me, what appealed to me about this particular book, as opposed to the thousands, the millions of books there, is that there was a practicality and, dare I say it, a science. Michael Singer is a really fascinating person. Indeed, I could have easily put The Surrender Experiment as one of my other deeply impactful books. It's one that I put down, a theme that I'll come back to. But for me, Living Untethered was a really excellent, plain English. It was like, what would happen if a copywriter wrote about inner work, who was also had a background in software development and science, and indeed listed a $1 billion company while living in Florida and teaching inner work 3 days a week. Really is a phenomenal story. But Living Untethered was my gateway drug into this entire world, and it's the book that I've given to the most people this year. Next step down the inner work path was Anthony DeMello and the book Awareness. Shout out to Dan Dobos, who pointed this book out to me years ago. And I read it, and it didn't really make any sense at all to me, and I put it down. However, after the previous book, I revisited Awareness, and it was a whole new experience in my post-ADHD inner work world. It was really powerful, and this is one that I actually recommend. The book is great, but if you can get the audio of it from Audible or wherever you get your audios, it's actually a lecture series that Anthony DeMello gave, and the Audible book is literally him speaking, and he is funny, and his enthusiasm is so engaging. So this is actually probably my favorite Audible book of the year, my favorite one to listen to, and I listen to it repeatedly. Awareness, Anthony DeMello is my next recommendation. If you were brought up by hippies and rebelled like Alex Keaton in Family Ties, you millennials and Gen Zs won't get that reference, but stay with me. One of the real challenges of inner work is the concept of awareness and observation. And it's actually got extraordinary practical use when it comes to business. I find myself more and more when I'm coaching people to get them to stop thinking about the future or thinking about the past and just think about the thing that's in front of them. Be present. But this whole concept of being present, and I know many of you have tried to explain to me are literally laughing right now at me, and that's okay. Because this book, Self-Observation by Red Hawk, was the best book I found, and I've read lots this year, about actually giving you a really practical step-by-step guide into what it actually means to be self-observant. Because the reality is that we're not self-observant hardly any of the time. And those are people who are more, dare we say it, enlightened, effectively more aware more of the time. It's like a continuum. That's how I think about it. And so this book is written by Red Hawk. Wonderful guy. It's Native American. And when you read it, you have to keep that cadence in mind in your head. This is not An audiobook I recommend because I think it's an AI author and it's an early AI author reader, and it's really not great. Read the book. But self-observation was very powerful for me because it actually explained what I need to do to bring that awareness in the present. Easy to say, extraordinarily hard to do. And if there's a scale of 1 to 10, I'm still at 1. But at least this book showed me what it should be like in the best way possible. If I had a book of the year specifically, if I had to give you one, this would be it. Determined by Robert Sapolsky is all my worlds colliding in this book. And the fact that it was released at the end of this year, it's only relatively just been released. It has been extraordinarily impactful, mainly for the way that, as I said, physics, inner work, business, copywriting, humor, everything collides in what is a book that is and will be incredibly challenging to a lot of you in terms of his views on whether or not we have free will. I'm not going to go into that here. I don't feel I'm qualified. But for me, this book, it's so funny. It's so well written. He'd be a devastating copywriter if he ever decided to stop the neurobiology and get into copywriting. Even from a meta level, just the way the book is written and the way the arguments are put and composed are just brilliant. And the stories in and of themselves are just a combination of head scratching, jaw dropping. If you want a book that delivers aha moments, this is it. So my absolute recommendation is Determined by Robert Sapolsky. It is just brilliant. So you're still here. This one is embarrassing. In fact, I didn't have it on the original script, but if I, hand on heart, had to tell you the book that had the deepest impact for me in 2023, as bigger impact as The Art of War did for me in Tokyo in 2009, watching the ADHD video and seeing that incredible gut punch, which led me to what has been an extraordinarily transformative year. This book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, was a punch in the gut, a kick in the balls, a slap in the face. Now, it's not what it sounds like. Instantly, you see the cover and you think, oh my God, is this one of these man/masculinity men pickup / blah, 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 blah books? No, it's nothing like that at all. When I read this, I'd just come back from what was professionally an amazing trip to Hawaii, what was personally a disastrous trip to Hawaii. Just facts. And after effectively hibernating for 2 weeks after personally, as I say, professionally, things were going great. I'd started the channel, all these sorts of things had happened. This was the literal kick in the nuts that I needed. And this book is an essay, if you will, on the phenomena of the nice guy. And you think, nice guy, that's great. But as I read and as it dawned on me, the terrible realization of actually how toxic and how terrible nice guys are. And I was like, if you looked up a picture in the dictionary, it was me. The use of covert contracts, of not saying what you want or putting a position, basically trying to strategically set up things in all the relationships in your world. Oh, look, I could go on and on. But as I said, this book was dramatic for me. And as I say, I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. Or a 12-step journey. I may be only in the first 1 or 2 steps. But for me, this book absolutely had the most impact for me. And I think, sadly, for people I've had relationships in the past, but I suppose on the bright side, people who I'll have relationships in the future, it's made me aware of just how much I wasn't aware of and didn't know. I could justify it to you, right? I could absolutely explain it to you. And indeed, upbringing, something which I've said on more and more occasions this year. I used to laugh at people saying, your upbringing, it doesn't impact you. Indeed, Determined, hello, my book of the year. This stuff, it obviously does have a huge impact. And I always joked about it. Not you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But if you don't know where your bootstraps are or indeed how to pull them up, then you've got no hope. So that's why this book was very impactful for me and hopefully for relationships and interacting with people going forward. It makes a really big difference there as well. So weird one to end, but I think one of the things about perhaps No More Mr. Nice Guy and, if you will, the lessons of Determined, that it's important for me to be transparent, to be honest, to tell you what has actually impacted me. Because if I'd done this list without mentioning this, and I was going to, I realized that, I'd be just pulling the same sort of nice guy. So there you have it. It's not about being an asshole. I'm very good at that, as you are well aware. But for me, this has been an extraordinary year. Those are the books and audiobooks which deeply impacted me. We'll speak more on the channel about the year 2023 and 2024. I can't wait to bring you the AI 30-day challenge in 2024. That's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you for coming back, for being part of me restarting this channel. It's been huge. It's been important to me. And thank you so much. All right. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. They won't all be like this.